one thing about this technique is you are trying to create a self-portrait, but it's sort of like an alter ego, right? There are two things about this process that are most important. Number one, your clothes. It's about couture, right? And it's about your hair. Coiffure and couture. Peace and blessings. I'm Mansa Mussa, artist and arts educator here at the Montclair Art Museum. I'm going to show you what has become my signature style of collage. I've been making collages since I was a small child. That was one of the first art forms that I loved. And I've been able to take my love of it, turn it into a profession, and also do what I love to do best. I love to teach because I love to learn. So I'm going to show you this signature art technique in collage called Wallpaper Self-Portrait Collage. So as I start with this piece of substrate. In collage, you're always working on something first. So this is an 11 by 14 board. So I find one piece of paper that I really love, and I'm going to use that to create the background. So I have these two, and I think I'm going to use this one. So the first thing I do is I take this piece of paper and I turn it over, and I take my substrate and I put it on top, and then I trace it. Sometimes I just put it in the corner because it's easier. Sometimes I put it right in the middle because the paper and the pattern is important. So I'm going to trace and I'm going to cut. And I started doing this technique. A friend of mine, Beverly McCutcheon, who is a great collagist, gave me some water paper samples. And she said, "Here, Mansa, let me see what you can do with this." And I said, "Well, what am I going to do with this?" My daughter at the time was 15, and she had just gotten a new iMac. So it was summertime, and she thought she was going to sit there for the whole summer and play with that iMac. And I said, no, I have a job for you. So I gave my daughter this wallpaper sample. I took a picture of her, and I said, let me see if you can create a self-portrait of yourself using this paper. And sure enough, she did a spectacular job. That was the first one that anyone did. And I said, maybe you got something here. Maybe you have a new jazz collage technique. And this technique sort of is a lot about improvisation, which I say jazz. And it's also about creating not just your personality, but the personality that you want, the personality that you were, or a personality that you can become, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put glue on the substrate, and I'm going to do it in this style. I go all four corners, and I always do it twice. In my collage technique, I want you to put glue on the entire surface of whatever you're gluing, and then I add the Yoo-hoo glue inside of the spaces. Now you can do this two ways. You can take the paper and drop it on top, or you can do this, turn the paper that way, and take the substrate and put it on top. That's a little bit easier for some people. So I'm going to go like that. I'm going to turn it over. In my collage technique, this is an important tool, a brayer, because what I want this paper to do is I want it to become flat. So that's the first part. A, cover the surface with one piece of paper. Part two, I'm going to create a silhouette of my face, my neck, and my shoulders. And I'm trying to find a paper that's the opposite of what I have here to create contrast. So I'm going to use this blue paper. I'm going to do this, and this is a style I learned during the quarantine of how to create the contour of your face. I'm going to make a dot at the top, a dot at the bottom, a dot on the right, and a dot on the left. And I'm just going to follow the dots to create the contour of your face. So I'm going to cut this, and this will become my face, my self-portrait. Okay, so now I've got that, right? So there's my face and my shoulders. The style of technique that I generally employ now as a collage artist. I just kind of go with the flow. All right, so I'm going to glue this down. All right. I'm going to put it here. Put it at the bottom, and every time I put a piece of paper here, I roll it with the brayer. I want this paper to be flat. Okay, so when I work with these projects, I'm really thinking about texture. Okay, when you see these wallpaper samples, that's the thing that jumps out to me, the texture of them. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to create a shirt. All right, so I'm going to go like this, and then I'm actually going to glue this. And if I make any mistakes, just add a piece of paper. Now I have some pieces here. I can do something as simple as this. I could take an X-Acto knife blade and I can cut these pieces off, or I can add something later. I'm going to cut them off. I pre-cut this piece. I don't know if it'll work, but like I said, this is really about creating a new style for you, and perhaps a style that you wouldn't ordinarily use. So I'm going to cut this off. There you go. Now, I'm going to start with the features. One of the things that you can do, you can add ears. One thing about collage and this medium, when you cut, always cut a little bit bigger than how you draw. You can always cut it and make it smaller, but you always want to make sure you have plenty of material to use. And it's paper, you can always cut it down and make it smaller. This is, I don't know, it's an easy technique, but I think what makes it so compelling is that people come up with designs of themselves that they just, didn't think they could create. So there are the eyes, okay? Now I'll do different things. I'll take a punch like this, and I'll take a piece of black paper, and I'll go like this to make the pupils. Some people like to draw them in. Sometimes I'll cut this paper. I'm going to cut this in half, and I'll use these to create the pupils like that, right? So I'm going to glue these down, all right? I have a piece of paper underneath so I don't get glue on whatever surface you're working on. Now your eyes generally go one eye apart, right? So you got an eye on the left, an eye on the right. I'm going to leave these eyebrows, give them a teeny little bit of drama. Then I'm going to add the pupils. You can just decide the pupils are too big, so just, it's paper. Cut it down, get it to the size you want. So let's see if that's going to work. I think that looks a little bit better. And then I'm going to actually use my marker to draw in a little eyelid. So now I'm going to do the hardest thing in this technique. It's to draw the nose. Now you've got your face, your eyes are here, your nose is here, your mouth is going to go right about here, right? Here's your chin. So you're figuring your nose is going to go right about there. Simplest way, take a marker and just draw the nose. That's the simplest way to do it. But I don't like simple. So I'm going to take this. Let me see if I can get a nose out of this. And remember, if it doesn't work, cut out another piece of paper and put it on top. Don't tell anybody you made a mistake. One of the things that I love about art and love about teaching art is I try to teach my students to be fearless. Okay, what's going to happen if you make a mistake? Okay? So I'm going to cut this out. And I'm going to make a nose. The hardest part of wallpaper self-portrait collage is making noses. Now that's interesting to me. Now I might take the middle eye out, but let's see if we can make this nose a little bit better. So now we've got the features, except the mouth. Okay, now there's a nose. Now you say, it's different. I like different. Now I'm going to add the mouth. Same technique. I'm going to take a piece of paper, I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to draw the mouth on the back. I've never taught a group of people this collage technique who didn't do fabulous work. And that's the honest truth. This seems to be something that, I don't know, people get inspired. I've had one student who's taken this class about 2 or 3 times. She came in with yarn and she made her hair she used yarn to make her hair. I said, outrageous, simply outrageous, but fabulous. Okay, so we're gonna put the nose here, we're gonna put the lips here. I'm gonna articulate them a little bit more and cut a better shape in them. And I'm gonna glue these down. I'm gonna do a technique my daughter did in the first one of these. She took the lips and she cut a piece of white paper out like this. And she put it here in the mouth. I've done them as myself as a little boy. I've done them as myself at the present time. I've done them as myself as an old man. I've created these personalities of myself, you know, at different times in my life. And it's been kind of interesting. Okay, so now I'm gonna go to something like this to create the cap for King. This has got some contrast between the face and the background. And I'm gonna do this very simply. I'm not gonna think about it. I'm just gonna cut the paper. I don't know, it's sort of a lost art. You know, there was a time when most kids had made collages at some point, you know, they had taken glue and glued something together, paper together, but most kids haven't created collages, you know. They kind of know what it is, but they've never done one. Like I said, I think this technique is priceless. The next step is to add little pieces and to add little strokes of genius. And you can do that by just looking at it and saying, hey, what am I going to add that's going to make it interesting? Obviously, you can see I love to do this, but I don't know. Making art, I'm just sort of like, most of the time I'm just goofing off. I mean, I have a plan and I have the materials, but in essence, I'm just goofing off most of the time. You know, I mean, people say, oh, why are you an artist? Why do you love to make art? Because I get up in the morning and I just go out and play every day. You know. And then remember, this technique is really about fabric, it's about clothes, right? It's about texture, and it's about creating that outfit that you might not wear in life, but when you put it on this board and make this collage, you want people to look at your work and go, whoa, that's interesting. If people look at your art and they keep going, go back and do it over again. Something's wrong. You want people to look at your art and to have something so compelling about it that they stop and they keep looking. So you need glue, and you need paper, and a little bit of imagination, and have some fun.